Going to stick with Ray. Good morning, podcast community. You're in the Coach's Corner podcast, and you're with Coach Farrell Middleton. So Farrell's been on in several shows, so we're going to continue to talk to you about why is it important for business owners to invest in themselves and to really grow their business by getting somebody to help them level up their business is what we call it. So Farrell, for our viewers that haven't heard you before, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Farrell Middleton, and I am in the people business, and my program is about personal growth. It's called the Bell Curve of Life. And I am looking to engage with business owners and leaders to help them create smart and healthy professional environments through increased productivity, in stronger employee engagement and retention, and improved customer service, both internal and external. And we focus on this by working on positive attitudes with them and their staff members, positive attitudes, healthy relationship building, problem solving, effective use of time, basically a lot of qualitative measures that will get people in a really good frame of mind to be the best performer that they can be. That is what I like to do.
That's awesome. What do you see like when you're out there talking with people in the marketplace? What are they saying like is a common issue that keeps coming up, or problem, or objective? What are business owners telling you?
Okay. One of the big things that we've got, and I'm coming to find this out as I talk to all business owners, is number one, what I'll call internal dynamics. And I know that sounds like kind of a broad brush, but this relates to properly identifying the product or service that they provide to the marketplace. And everybody can be challenged with this. You got, one customer wants this, another one might want that, another one definitely wants this, but focusing in on what are you really good at and what product or service do you want to provide to the marketplace? And for example, on that, I was a home builder years ago. Actually, I did it for 36 years. That was my primary career, and I've moved on. But for example, home builders versus remodelers, people might think they're the same people, where they're not. I built new houses on fresh, clean property. And after closing, we had warranty responsibilities, and we were set up to do that. Remodelers go into existing homes and do changes to those homes based on that specific customer and their desires. And I spend a lot of time with remodelers these days in various formats, and they have the challenges of people living in the house while they're doing their work. And so focusing on one or the other is what somebody has. Either you're a new home builder or you are a remodeler. Just as a for example, in trying to kind of get the conversation going. Pete, you're nodding your head. You understand the distinction there that I'm making?
Yeah. Oh, it's big difference. I mean, yeah. When you're building a home, you had to have all these different contractors in the right order. It's kind of like baking a cake. If you can't put the egg in after the cake is already made, it doesn't fit and it won't work and it won't taste the same. So when you were putting all the contractors together in your previous life, like what was the number one skill that you had to have to effectively build that team of contractors?
Okay. Number one, my first skill was communication. I had to be able to, number one, tell them what my objective was. What are the services that I need? And can you help me provide those? And what I learned in the conversation and communication is they might give me suggestions on, hey, you know what? I know what you're saying, but let me tell you what I'm really good at. And let's see if this can fit into what your desire is. Man, I did that a lot. I'm not an expert on anything, Pete, except being myself. Okay. And that's it. But I took a lot of advice and guidance from a lot of the people that I dealt with. And so in that light, to answer your question on that, basically, I would say, hey, I'm going to go build, I've got this new neighborhood. It's going to be 50 houses. And we want to build these 50 houses in the period of about 1 year, let's just say. Mr. Plumber, can you provide the resources on your staff and your crews and your suppliers and manufacturers to help me do that? And the conversation would start there. And sometimes the answer was a quick yes, and we moved on. And sometimes they had a few questions for me, that kind of thing. And we would work our way through it. And I was looking to them to provide their professional services, their experience. I'm not a plumber. I don't want to be a plumber. That's what I'm paying them to do. But I want them to be able to provide those services in a manner that works for, number one, both of us. Then number two, the other trades that are involved after the plumber comes in. And finally, and most importantly, what is the service we're providing to the ultimate customer? That was the big key.
What would you say? Yes. What would you say, like today, ever since COVID, the shortage of contractors is real. If I've heard one story, I've heard 50 that a person said they were going to be there and they didn't show up. When you were back working with contractors, let's just say you had a relationship with the owner of the plumbing company, and that person has, people that work for him. So when a person didn't show up, because if you're a plumber, you got to plumb first before you put the drywall in. So if you're scheduling people and you constantly had a problem with a particular person that worked for somebody, what would you do to kind of either work with it? What would you kind of, as a builder, how did you get them kind of like on your team? What was that like?
That was a big challenge, so by the way, and everybody has that challenge. Let's be very clear, because my second part of your original question was going to be, how are business owners managing their internal associates, their workforce, and then again, like with outside subcontracting crews, that kind of thing. That's the second big challenge. So you had a great segue into that next topic. But basically on that, if it was not going well, then I had a good enough relationship with the owner of that company. I'd call him and say, hey, Joe, let's just say Joe the plumber. Look, this is what's going on, and this is where we're not connecting as well as we need to. But prior to that phone call, I needed to make sure that I had created what I call an A environment. Was I providing Joe the plumber with the right set of plans, with the right specifications of what type of Moen faucet was going to go in the master bathroom, what type of water heater did I want? And then, making sure that I was going to pay him regularly and on a routine basis. That's where the long-term relationship and reputation comes in. And so with that, I took that very seriously, Pete, in my career. I tried to do as well as I could with it, but I wanted to be the builder of choice that plumber, when he woke up every day and got to the office, looking at his whiteboard, and he had a choice of 5 builders to go to, I wanted to be on the top of that list. And in order to do that, I had to provide an A environment. Are my job sites ready when his crews come out? Can they get to the house? Is it clean? All that kind of stuff. And that relates to the A environment, which is a big issue for my program. And so I kind of started with myself first. And I got better at this as the years went by. Initially, when I was a young renegade and maverick and all that kind of stuff and wanting to prove myself to the world, I didn't take that as seriously. But as I matured and grew, and I'm like, man, there's a better way to do this. Let me look at myself first to make sure I provided the environment where they can succeed. If I have done that, then I can say, hey, you know what I'm doing? Joe, I provided a good environment for you. I'm going to pay you on time. I'm going to pay you what we agreed to. And in return for that, I need your commitment to provide the right resources to get the job done when you say you're going to get it done. Collaboration is the key. The, animosity type relationships, I never like those. It doesn't do anybody any good. Collaboration is the key, and both sides have to perform and provide services to each other for it to work.
Yeah, I love that. What do you say, like, so a young builder, I'm just going to put yourself in that young Farrell before you became a good golfer and you're striking it down the middle and really fine-tuning your skill of golf. What would you say to them? Because today is a little different than it was 25 years ago. There's definitely a different shortage of contractors than maybe it was back then. But there's always challenges in a business. So how would you kind of help our younger people that are getting in? What would you say to them are some principles that they could take home from our time?
Okay. Wow. What a great question. Great question. And I really want to work with the younger folks in society as well. They've got a special place in my heart and in my program. But it starts with building relationships.
Mm.
and what I call behaving responsibly. And Pete, I look back on my 36-year career in home building,
Mhm.
and I can sum it up in 2 words. On a routine basis, I behaved responsibly. And I didn't always make the right decision. I didn't always hire the right person or fire the right person or, handle every situation perfectly. No, that was not the case. But people knew that I was a consistent decision maker.
Mhm.
And that matters based on the circumstances. They all kind of knew, hey, we got this situation. We're going to go to Farrell for some help and guidance or resolution, whatever service I could provide. They pretty much knew how I was going to react and how I was going to help guide them through. That matters. People that behave inconsistently, have temper tantrums and yelling and screaming. If someone approaching a person that might be wired that way, and I know a lot of them, and sometimes that can be effective, but I think most of the times it's not in a long-term basis.
Mhm.
If people don't know how you're going to react, they're very hesitant to go to you seeking resolution to the issue at hand. Does that make sense to you, Pete?
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because times have changed we see it. We just have to go to a restaurant and you see the number of people, like a family, and they're all on their cell phones and they're
Hmm.
sitting like at a table. And
Yeah.
it's like, what are they talking to themselves through text? Or are they just engaged somewhere else? How do you handle the busyness of the phone and the distraction from so much information at our fingertips? Because back when you started in building, you didn't have cell phones. You just
No, we
had to
didn't.
talk to people. So how are you helping people today balance technology and building relationships?
Yeah. Oh boy, that's another great question, man. You're on fire this morning, Pete. You got
Hey,
some great
yeah.
stuff on a Monday
Hey,
morning.
after a couple hundred of these, you better get good, because and then building, if you can't get
Yeah.
better every day as a builder, you ain't going to be a builder more than a year.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah,
That's
no,
right.
go ahead.
Well, what I like to do with that, when I do have the opportunity to get in front of folks like that, is basically you've got, let's say it's a 10-hour work day. Okay. Let's say people are going to work from 7 to 5 or 10 to 6, throw some lunch in, or 8 to 6, whatever, throw some lunch in, that kind of thing. That over the course of the day, you can probably get to everything that you need to get to. Okay. If you're in a meeting or a conversation with someone and your phone goes off and you're distracted and you look at it, whatever the case may be, that's a distraction, and that will keep you away from resolving the issue at hand. It's just going to take longer to get it done. So for example, right now in this moment, I've got my cell phone. It's right here. Okay. I've got it on silent and I've got it face down on the
Mm,
table,
yes.
because if I had it face up like this, then you see, hang on. Yeah. You see,
Yeah.
if a text comes in, I'm going to
You
look
might
at it.
see your grandbaby pop up on there from
I
your
might, I
daughter or
might be
something
more
like that.
important. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, but I put it face down on the table on silent, so that when I've got this 20, 25 minutes with you and your audience, I am focused. And you
Yeah.
know what's going to happen? In, let's see, we're 13 minutes in. So in about 16 minutes, I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm going to say, hey, who tried to get me? And I am then going to be able to respond. And the other thing, and I got to be very careful about how I say this, the iWatches, I think that's one of the most distracting inventions ever created, because
Mhm.
I'm in a conversation with somebody and they're doing this.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if they're looking to see what time it is, or if it's a pulse thing, if I'm getting them so aggravated their pulse is I have no idea what they're doing, but all I know is they're not focused in the conversation,
Yeah.
and therefore the retention is not the conversation is not going to flow. So to answer your question, take off your iWatch or put your phone on silent and put it face down for the time we're going to have together. And let me be very clear. You and I are going to be on this podcast for 25 minutes. All
Mhm.
right. That is 1/20th of my day if I work a 10-hour day.
Yep.
That stuff can wait. Okay.
I
Because
love
if
it.
you don't do that, then you're not going to get closure to you and I engaging. And you're going to be, it's just, you're not going to get your message across to whoever it is you're communicating with. That to me is the fundamental issue. Focus, pay attention, listen, and my goodness, the productivity you will receive from this will stun you. It'll be amazing.
And I love that comment. And I just want for our viewers that, you know, that is definitely a red flag when somebody that I'm talking with can't be concentrating on our conversation, that I'm kind of wondering of that really, are we engaged enough to benefit? Because I think being intentional is everything. And I'll think there's a person that works in this building, and I was in her office, and she's constantly looking at her emails back and forth. Her eyes are going to her email to
Mhm.
me, to
Oh,
email to me. I'm
yeah,
going like, it even confused me, but
yeah.
she couldn't look me in the eye and answer my question. She's trying to answer emails. She's trying to, and that kind of stuff disconnects with the relationship building, because
Mhm.
I love what you said about relationship building, because everything in business is that, but it's not just a word relationship. It's doing what you just said, which is being involved in the conversation,
Mhm.
not checking my watch,
Right.
not checking whatever comes through on a text, and you're looking down when we're in a conversation, and it just kind of disconnects when somebody like does something that we're in a conversation. It's like, hey, look, relationships are matter and they're
Mhm.
important. What
Yeah.
would you say, as since we're on relationship? I know you're a good golfer, and I love you that you're a strategist. We talked strategy before when we were on the golf podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But tell our viewers, because I want to get back to that quality time of building a relationship. What would you do today that would help develop those relationships for people that you're out there in the marketplace? Because there's a lot of distractions. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
distractions.
Yeah.
How would you walk people through your experiences and what you just said about being intentional about in the conversation? How are
Mhm.
you helping those people out there,
Uh,
younger mainly?
yeah, yeah. Well, basically, again, I think it ties into relationships, and the key is like we were talking about the distractions in meeting with somebody, and like you said, the lady that's looking at emails and she's talking to you, and she's doing all this kind of stuff. She's not handling any one of those effectively. Okay,
Yeah.
and you know what
Yep.
she's going to do? She's going to wake up tomorrow and do exactly the same thing. She's not going to
Yep.
get closure to anything she's working on. So, with regard to that, it's a focus on what it is, what is the priority of the moment. But on your second question there, Pete, it just comes down to getting to know people. And one of the things I like to do as well, I'm a very personable guy. I always have
Mhm.
been. And, people like hanging out with me and I like hanging out with them and all that kind of stuff. But take a genuine interest in the people that you want to get to know. Uh, Business is not the entire world. Get to know people, go have a cup of coffee with them, find out what they like to do with their kids, and, this is just getting to know people because everybody's got their priorities in professional life and personal life. And I believe that in building healthy business relationships, tie a little personal stuff into it. Hey, how old are your kids? Are your kids athletes? Are they musicians? What do they like to do? And that kind of thing. It just builds a relationship. And that gets into that, behaving responsibly thing I mentioned a few minutes ago, which is a very broad brush type thing.
Mhm.
But basically, if you can make that human connection, it matters. And people will appreciate that. And they'll know you're not just there. And you know what this is? I talked about this weekend. Do not make your world about just transactions.
Yes.
If you're a transactional person, then you might be successful. You might get the deal done. The money might come in and all that kind of stuff, but it's just not going to be a complete relationship for long term value and benefit for both parties.
Yes.
Get away from the transaction as being the only focus of how you coordinate with people, and just be a real person. And number one, be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else.
Yep.
Be yourself. I read something on a sign. It's actually the cornerstone of my program. It is titled, "Try to be yourself. Everyone else is taken."
Oh
I'll
man,
never forget that.
love that.
Yeah.
Dang, that really hits where it needs to hit. Because today we have all the distractions we need. I
Oh, yeah.
heard the person, I don't know if it's true exactly, but the average person watches 4 hours of TV.
Okay.
If you invested just half of that in relationships,
Hmm.
like when we were at the NFL draft at Miller's Ale House, you were over there having a beer with a guy, and you guys were just, I don't remember who it was, but you guys were just talking and having some time to just to get to know further. I don't know if you knew him but you were just kind of having that time, that one-on-one
Hmm.
in between the drafts. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you did have the first draft, so you were at
I
the
did.
advantage of really getting a good pick. But
Yeah.
my
Mine
point
was
to
easy.
people is you weren't sitting there in the corner texting and doing all this stuff. You were talking with people.
That's
You were
correct.
having a beer with a person.
Hmm.
Now, being a
Yeah.
golfer, that 19th hole is a pretty cool thing.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you just, in your relationship building as we wind down, is there like a tip besides golf? Because that's the ultimate building. I mean, you're out there for 4.5 years, 4.5 week. I mean, 4.5 hours
Yeah.
on a round, and
Yeah.
you just get to know people. So you have that built in. But if I'm a non-golfer, what would
Hmm.
you tell me that could help me learn how to build relationships?
Okay. One of the things I like to do, and in my new career here, which is almost 2 years old, I don't know if you realize how many coffee shops there are around North Atlanta, Pete.
Mm,
They're everywhere and they're busy all the time.
yeah,
And what I have had great success with in getting to know a ton of new people in the last 2 years is go get a cup of coffee.
yeah,
It's easy. It's
yes,
simple. I'm not a coffee
yeah,
drinker, so I'll get iced. I met somebody at 8 o'clock this morning in a coffee shop in Smyrna. All right. And I got iced tea. I'm just not a coffee drinker, so I got some iced tea. So it doesn't matter what you drink. But we were in a casual environment. We had a great
yes,
conversation for about an hour and a half. It's a relatively new colleague of mine, and we just wanted to talk.
yes.
And we just talked. And
Quality
I
time.
got yeah, and I got to know him a whole lot better this morning, and it was great. Just go get a cup of coffee with
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah,
Yeah, it's easy. And the golf is great, but with the golf, it's 4.5 hours, like you say, but you're up and down and you're moving and you're swinging clubs and you're writing scores down and all that kind of stuff. You can't really have what I'll call continuous conversation,
yeah,
but that's for coffee shops. Having camaraderie on the golf course has tremendous value as well, but you do things on the golf course that relate to playing golf. And you throw a guy a towel and you mark his ball for him and you clean the bunker after he's in there because you're not going to putt for another minute.
yeah.
Just the simple stuff that makes you a good guy. It's so easy if you put your mind to it. It's really easy.
Well, I heard a gentleman say, common sense is not always common practice.
Yeah.
So you think getting to know people, hey, that makes sense, common
Hmm.
sense. But
Yeah.
we have been disconnected with the iPhone and the phones to think that just hanging out, texting is our relationship building
Right.
tool. And really, texting is just a level of communication that's well behind that person to person, that
Oh,
one,
absolutely. Yeah.
that getting to know people. So
Yeah.
I want to give our viewers, as we wind down, I did type in your first name, but I want to do a commercial break here for a second
All right.
because we have an event coming up, and I want mainly for our seniors.
Hey,
Now,
hey.
you're
Yeah.
in that. You do you know Ken Kington?
The name sounds familiar,
He's
but I'm
not a
not
bad
familiar with it. Yeah.
golfer. I mean, he's about 85, about 88. He's high 80s,
Ah,
maybe sometimes mid 80s.
as long
But
as he
anyway,
enjoys it.
this event is we're bringing our adult children with our senior parents together to laugh. So if you want to take your mom and dad out on a date, get with them. Come on
Yeah.
out to Grace Church is where we're having it.
Okay.
Ken, Melissa, and Larry, who is one of us, will be on that night. This is going to be May the 22nd, right after the special election in Kennesaw. And so that next day, and for those that can go to a QR code right here, 46 minutes of gut gut-wrenching laughter. He's at the Air Bar in Salt Lake City, and you want some good fun and you want to just kind of enjoy laughing a lot, watch him in action, and then you'll see him in person. We'll be at Grace Church Wednesday the 22nd. Tickets are $15, and you can buy a group of 10 tickets if you're a senior home and you want to provide them for your residents.
Excellent.
So that's our commercial. We'd love to have you out there. And so if you have any questions, you can call me, and then Farrell's going to give you his information in just a second. Here we go. Okay. That's where you get tickets, podcasterpkane.com, or you can call me direct, 404-428-3006. So as we wind down, I want you to first give me your because I couldn't find it on my screen.
All right.
Okay, hold on. I moved it. There we go. Okay, here we go. Thank you for working with us. We are like on the fly. Okay. So Farrell, tell us how we can get a hold of you. Give our viewers a number, and I'll put it on the screen while you give your last comment.
Sure. I love talking with people. So my phone number is 678-618-2024. And
678-618
2024.
Okay. All righty. Let's see if we get it right here. I think we did. Okay. All right.
There we go. Yep. You got it.
Okay. So that's his number. And as we close, tell our viewers, one, get a hold of Farrell at 678-618-2024. And I want you to tell our viewers, what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home with them for this podcast? What would it be for our viewers to enjoy?
I think for today with what we've talked about is, and again, we're here with my phone number. I'm going to tie this in. A text is great. I'd love to communicate with you, but in text, you can't see eye contact. You can't hear voice inflection. You can't do those kind of things. Back to what you were talking about is so important is, how do you connect with people? You got to talk to them.
Yes.
Pick up the phone and talk to them. Oh my gosh. It's just, and that's why I like the coffee shop thing, because you can really engage with somebody. You can pat them on the shoulder, or, give them a little fist bump or something like that. Just human connection is totally irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. Yeah.
And I want to tell our viewers out there, if you run into Farrell, tell him congratulations. He may not have all the gray hair of all the senior citizens out here, but he is a granddad. And he is going to be enjoying years of being a granddad, teaching. Boy or girl for our viewers?
Little boy. He was born 20 days ago. He'll be 3 weeks old tomorrow. And my next appointment, Pete, after this, I'm going to have lunch with my daughter and her new baby. I'm bringing pub subs to her house.
Oh my gosh.
So this was great, but that's going to be greater for my day. I get to go see my grandson.
Enjoy that. And I want our viewers to know you'll be selling shares of stock in his golf future, because I have a feeling he's going to be a really good golfer. If I know his granddad and his talents on the golf course.
We're going to work.
Thank you, Farrell. We appreciate you being with us today. And
always, man.
Viewers, just reach out to Farrell if you want to have lunch or have coffee with him. Talk to him about strategy, and need a good coach to be able to get you to the next level.
Yep. Love it. Thank you so much, Pete. I love spending time with you. You know that. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Thank you.